Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The house was quiet. Too quiet. It was the kind of silence that usually brought me peace after a 60-hour week at my bakery. But that night it felt heavy, like the calm before a tornado tears the roof off your life. I was sitting on the beige sectional sofa that my husband, Daryl, had picked up 3 years ago, a glass of red wine resting on a coaster as I stared at the empty spot on the wall where our wedding portrait used to hang. I had taken it down to dust the frame 2 days earlier and never put it back up. Maybe my subconscious was trying to tell me something. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, the vibration rattling against the wood. It was 8:12 p.m. on a Friday. Daryl, my husband of 25 years, was supposed to be 3 hours away at Lake Norman in North Carolina, crammed into a rustic cabin with his old college buddies for a weekend of fishing and beer. That was the story. That was the script he had repeated all week. He needed a break, he had said. He needed to find himself again after losing his job the month before. I reached for the phone, expecting a text about traffic or a picture of some sad little bass he had caught. I unlocked the screen. It was not a fish. It was a selfie. In the foreground, Daryl was smiling. It was not the tired, forced smile he gave me across the dinner table these days. It was a wide, open smile, his eyes crinkled at the corners. But it was what and who was in the background that made my blood turn to ice. Clinging to his arm, her head resting on his shoulder, was a woman I knew all too well from his stories, Sabrina Miller, his high school sweetheart. She wore a white sundress with blue flowers, something new and flirty, and behind them was not a rustic fishing cabin. It was the grand stone and timber entrance of Whispering Pines Lodge in Asheville, a luxury resort that cost $600 a night. I knew that entrance because Daryl had told me we could not afford to go there for our anniversary last year. Under the photo was a caption that felt like a slap. "Do not be jealous. Just ran into an old friend. Totally innocent. Do not worry so." My hands began to shake. A hot flush crawled up my neck. He did not just cheat. He mocked me. He was gaslighting me in real time, counting on the fact that I was the good wife, the one who avoided conflict, paid the bills, and kept the peace. I zoomed in on the photo. His hand was resting on Sabrina's waist. In the reflection of the glass doors behind them, I could see a table with a bucket of champagne and 2 glasses. He was not fishing. He was spending my money I earned standing on my feet kneading dough since 4 in the morning, to spoil the woman who had broken his heart 30 years ago. For a moment, I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone through the television screen. I wanted to jump in my car, drive up the mountain, and flip that champagne table over. But something inside me shifted. The heat of my anger cooled into something solid and sharp, like steel. I realized I was not just hurt. I was done. I set the wine glass down. I did not drink it. I needed a clear head. I looked around the living room at the life we had built. The curtains I had sewn. The books he never read. The collection of vinyl records he claimed were an investment. It all looked different now. It looked like inventory. I opened my messaging app. I saw the 3 dots appear and disappear. He was still typing, probably crafting another lie, probably about how they had just bumped into each other in the lobby. I did not wait. I typed my response, not a question, not a plea, but a verdict. Clean. Final. Got your message. I have saved it. I am on my way to file for divorce. Do not come back to our house. I am moving your things to your mother's. Communication by lawyer only. My thumb hovered over the send button. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was the point of no return. No more working it out. No more counseling. No more pretending. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of the cinnamon candle I loved, and pressed send. Then I powered the phone off and tossed it onto the cushion beside me. The war had started. Before the explosion really began, you have to understand who I am and who Daryl pretended to be. My name is Celeste, and I am a baker. Not someone who likes to make cookies on the weekend, but a 3rd-generation baker. My father taught me that dough has a memory. If you treat it with respect, it rises. If you rush it or mistreat it, it falls flat. I applied that logic to my marriage for 25 years. I own Celeste's Needs, a bakery and catering company that services half the corporate events in our city of Charlotte. When my father passed away, he left me the shop, but it was drowning in debt. I worked 18-hour days to turn it around. I missed holidays, birthdays, and sleep. I poured everything into that business because I knew it was the only security I had. He also left me a modest inheritance, a trust fund that was legally protected as separate property for my retirement. Then there was Daryl. When we met, he was handsome and charming. That was his full-time job for 2 decades, being handsome and charming. On paper, he was a consultant. Over the years, that title evolved into entrepreneur, then freelance strategist, and finally just unemployed. He had a talent for starting projects that required my seed money, but never turned a profit. A microbrewery idea that cost us $20,000 in equipment, now rusting in the garage. A real estate license he never used because he did not like working weekends. I did not mind being the provider. I loved him. I thought marriage was a partnership. If my role was to carry more of the financial weight, I would do it. But partnerships require both people to pull the cart. Daryl did not pull. He rode in the back and complained about the bumps. 2 years before that selfie, everything shifted. His mother, Evelyn, suffered a severe stroke and needed round-the-clock care. Assisted living facilities were expensive and had long waiting lists. Daryl looked at me with pleading eyes and said, "You are so good with her, Sue. Can she stay here just until she gets better?" I was on the verge of landing a massive contract with the City Convention Center that would have doubled our revenue. I looked at my husband, terrified of losing his mother, and I made a choice. I declined the contract. I scaled back my hours at the bakery. I moved Evelyn into our guest room and became her nurse, cook, and cleaner. For 2 years, I changed adult diapers, spoon-fed her soup, drove her to physical therapy 3 times a week, and managed her medication. Where was Daryl? He was networking. He hid at the golf course, supposedly looking for clients for a consulting business that did not exist. He said he could not handle seeing his mother in that condition, so he left the hard work to me. One afternoon, I was lifting Evelyn into her wheelchair, my back aching, when Daryl walked in smelling like cigar smoke and expensive whiskey. He glanced at the pile of laundry and asked, "Did you remember to iron my blue shirt? I have a meeting tomorrow." He did not ask about his mother. He did not ask about me. He just wanted his shirt. When Evelyn finally improved enough to move back to her own small house 6 months before the selfie, I expected gratitude. I expected Daryl to say, "Thank you for saving my mother." Instead, he said, "Finally, we can have some peace and quiet." And then he lost his under-the-table job and fell into a self-pitying slump. That was when he began talking about needing a friend. That was when he reconnected with Sabrina. One evening, as I served pot roast, he stabbed at it like he was dissecting a specimen. "You will not believe who I ran into at the gas station," he said. "Sabrina Miller. She is back in town." I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth. I knew the story. Sabrina, the homecoming queen who dumped him senior year because he did not have a car. "I thought she moved to Florida," I said. "She did," he answered too quickly. "She is going through a rough divorce. Her husband left her for a younger woman. She is in a bad place, Celeste. She looked really fragile." That word was the bait. Daryl loved fragile things because they made him feel important. Standing next to me, he felt invisible. I tried to be understanding. Divorce is hard. He told her we would look out for her as friends. He said she needed help fixing up her late mother's place. That was how it started. The handiwork. Daryl, who had not fixed a loose doorknob in our own home in 10 years, was suddenly Mr. Fix-It. Painting her living room. Unclogging her drains. Moving her furniture. I told myself I was secure. We had 25 years of history. Sabrina was just a sad, middle-aged woman going through a crisis. Jealousy felt beneath me. But the comparison started. Sabrina thought it was amazing that I ran a business, Daryl said one night, watching me answer emails at the kitchen table. "She wonders how you find time to be a wife. She says a home needs a woman's touch, not just her paycheck. If Sabrina wants to pay my mortgage, she is welcome to comment on my schedule," I replied without looking up. He rolled his eyes. "See, that is what I mean. You are so hard. Sabrina is soft. She listens. She does not talk about profit margins and supply chains." "Profit margins pay for your golf clubs, Daryl," I reminded him. He slammed his hand on the table. "It is always about money with you. You make me feel like an employee. Sabrina makes me feel like a man." The perfume I did not wear started clinging to his shirts. He bought new, brighter clothes. He stopped eating the lunches I packed because Sabrina cooked, and it would be rude not to try it. When I told him I was not comfortable with him spending 4 nights a week at her house, he accused me of being controlling. "She is depressed, Celeste. If I stop helping and she hurts herself, that is on you. Do you want that on your conscience? He weaponized her supposed fragility to shame me into silence. One Saturday, I came home early. He was in the shower, and his phone was buzzing on the nightstand. I did not pick it up, but I saw the preview flash, a message from Sabrina B. It read, "You left your watch on my nightstand. I am sleeping with it tonight. Miss you." My stomach twisted. When he walked out of the bathroom in a towel, I asked, "Is there something going on with Sabrina?" He laughed. "You are crazy. She is a mess. Why would I want her? I am helping a friend. You are insecure. It is unattractive." He made me doubt myself, made me feel small and irrational. I backed down, but my gut knew better. And not long after, I realized that while I was worrying about his heart, he was quietly robbing my wallet. You would think that after I had taken care of Evelyn for 2 years, she would show some loyalty. Instead, about a month into the Sabrina era, we went over to Evelyn's house for Sunday dinner, a tradition I had maintained to make sure she was eating and taking her medication. I brought pot roast and her favorite lemon bars from the bakery. Evelyn barely looked at me. "You look tired again," she said. "Always working. Daryl tells me you barely have time to cook. A man needs a hot meal, Celeste." I glanced at Daryl. He was smirking, pouring iced tea. Clearly he had been complaining to her. "He is perfectly capable of using the stove," I answered. Evelyn stiffened. "That is not a man's job. That is why he has been spending time with that nice Sabrina girl. Now there is a woman who understands traditional values." I froze. "You know about Sabrina?" I asked. "Of course," Evelyn replied brightly. "She came by yesterday with flowers. Such a sweet girl. We had a lovely chat. She told me how lonely Daryl seems. She said he looks like a man starving for affection. Daryl refused to meet my eyes. My hands trembled. "I gave up 2 years of my life to care for you," I whispered. "I bathed you. I fed you. And you are praising the woman trying to take my husband." Evelyn's expression turned cold. "You did your duty as a daughter-in-law. Do not expect a medal. If you were making my son happy, he would not need a friend like Sabrina. Maybe you should look in the mirror." I stood up, choking on fury. "Next time you get sick, I hope Sabrina learns how to handle a catheter, because I will not be here," I said and walked out. In the car, I screamed until my throat hurt. That was when it hit me. I was alone. My husband was a traitor. My mother-in-law was an enabler. And if they were bold enough to parade Sabrina in front of Evelyn, what else were they bold enough to do? My thoughts turned to money. Daryl had taken over handling the mail to help. I drove straight to the bank. It was Sunday, so only the ATM lobby was open. I checked the balances I could access. Something felt wrong. Monday morning, instead of going to the bakery at 4 o'clock, I called my assistant manager, Janelle, and told her I had a family emergency. In a way, I did. My family was robbing me. I waited until Daryl left the house for his so-called job hunt, which I knew meant Sabrina's house. Then I went into his cluttered home office. I searched the filing cabinet, his desk, the drawers. Nothing obvious. Then I saw his gym bag in the corner, the one he took everywhere even though I never washed any sweaty clothes. I unzipped it and found a crumpled receipt from Easy Cash Pawn and Loan. My heart stopped. The date was 2 weeks earlier. The item description read, "Vintage ring, gold band, oval ruby, 2 diamonds." I knew that ring. It was my grandmother's ring, the only heirloom I had from my mother's side, kept in a velvet box in the back of my jewelry drawer. I ran to the bedroom, tore open the drawer, found the box, and opened it. Empty. He had stolen it. He had walked into our bedroom, taken the most sentimental thing I owned, and pawned it for $400. The ring was worth 5 times that in cash and far more in meaning. Back in the gym bag, I dug deeper and found a shopping bag from a high-end department store. Inside was a box for a designer purse. The price tag read $395. Daryl had pawned my grandmother's ring to buy Sabrina a purse. Rage washed over me, cold and clear. In the same bag, I found a letter from a credit card company I did not recognize. A platinum visa addressed to Celeste Moore. I did not have a platinum visa. I ripped it. Open. Current balance, $5,200. Minimum payment due immediately. I scanned the charges. Whispering Pines Lodge deposit, $600. Lingerie store, $150. Liquor store, $80. Steakhouse, $180. Auto parts, gas, little indulgences. My hands shook. He had opened a credit card in my name. He had used my social security number and my good credit to fund his affair. He was taking Sabrina out for steak dinners and buying her lingerie, billing it all to me. Identity theft. Fraud. This was more than a broken heart. This was a crime. I took photos of everything. The pawn slip, the purse box, the credit card statement. I put it all back exactly how I found it. If I confronted him now, he would lie, destroy the evidence, and twist the story. I needed a plan. I went to the bank and met with a banker who pulled my full credit report. It was worse. There was a second card, maxed out at $3,000. $8,000 in debt in 3 months, all in my name. I walked out of the bank into bright sunlight, dizzy. My marriage was a crime scene. I picked up my phone and called the one person who had always been honest with me. Daryl's oldest friend, Lionel, who owned an auto repair shop on the south side. "Lionel," I said when he answered. "I need to talk, and I need you to be honest with me." His voice was tight. "Where are you?" "I am coming to the garage." "Do not tell Daryl." When I pulled up, Lionel took one look at my face and flipped his sign to closed. In his cramped office, he handed me terrible coffee and listened as I laid out everything. The ring, the cards, the lodge. He rubbed his forehead. "I suspected the affair," he admitted. "But I did not know he was stealing. He brought Sabrina here once. I told him he did not deserve you." He laughed. Lionel pulled a business card from his desk. "My cousin Victor Holmes is a divorce attorney. A tough one. He specializes in asset protection and financial misconduct. Call him today. Whatever friendship I have with Daryl does not cover this." I took the card, thanked Lionel for not covering for a thief, and left. Victor squeezed me into an emergency appointment that afternoon. Sitting in his calm, wood-paneled office, I spread out my evidence. He adjusted his glasses and nodded slowly. "The credit card fraud is critical," he said. "It proves financial abuse. The ring shows theft. The house is in your name?" "Yes. I inherited it before the marriage. My father never let me put Daryl on the deed." Victor smiled. "Your father was a wise man. The bakery? An LLC in my name only." "Good. Here is what we do." Victor explained the plan. We would file for divorce, request a restraining order based on financial misconduct, and quietly secure every asset. We would not serve Daryl until everything was locked down. "You said he is going on a fishing trip this weekend?" Victor asked. "That is what he claims," I answered. Victor's smile turned sharp. "Then let him go. While he is away, you change the locks, move his belongings out, and secure your accounts. He expects to come home to you. Instead, he will come home to consequences." I drove home with a battle plan and a mask. For 4 days, I had to pretend. I had to smile, cook, and nod while my husband plotted to empty my accounts. I had to let him think he was winning until I pulled the rug from under him. 2 nights before his trip, Daryl came into the kitchen while I was chopping vegetables. "I invited a few people over for a barbecue," he said casually. "Just Lionel and his wife and Sabrina. She is feeling down again." He did not ask. He informed me. I was exhausted, but I said, "Fine." Inside, I filed it away as one more insult on the pile. Lionel arrived first, awkward and apologetic. Then Sabrina breezed in wearing a too-short sundress and carrying cheap wine. "Hi, Celeste," she chirped, air-kissing near my cheek. "Wow, you look comfortable. I love that you do not care about fashion. It is so brave." I glanced at my jeans and bakery t-shirt. "These are work clothes. Some of us have jobs," I said quietly. She linked her arm through Daryl's and glided into my kitchen like she owned it. She found the wine glasses on the first try. He must have shown her around before. Out on the patio, they laughed over the grill while I finished the sides. At dinner, Sabrina picked at everything. "This salad is a little heavy on the dressing, is it not?" she said. Daryl nodded along. "Celeste is not really a cook. She is a baker. Different skill set. She burns toast." They laughed together. Then Sabrina reached for the salt, knocked over her glass, and splashed red wine all over my grandmother's hand-embroidered tablecloth, the one I used only on special occasions. "Oops," she said, not sounding sorry at all. I jumped up to blot the stain. "It is just a tablecloth," Daryl snapped. "Sit down. Do not make a scene." "It was my grandmother's," I said. "Like the ring." The table fell silent. Daryl went pale. Sabrina blinked. "What ring?" she asked. "Nothing," Daryl said quickly. "Just old stuff. We will buy a new tablecloth. A better one." Sabrina leaned in, loud enough for me to hear. "See? She is so materialistic." Crying over a rag. Something in me finally snapped. I looked at the woman wearing a purse bought with my stolen ring, sitting at my table, insulting my grandmother's work. I stood up. I have a headache. I am going to bed. Lionel, please lock up when you leave. Daryl sputtered. You are leaving your guests? I do not have guests, I said. I have intruders. In my bedroom, I locked the door and pulled out a notebook, making a list of what I would move out on Friday. A few minutes later, Lionel texted. I am leaving. They are drunk. Say the word for Friday. I will bring the truck. I replied, be here at 8 in the morning. Lots of boxes. Friday arrived under a gray sky. Daryl bustled around the house, unusually energetic, packing for his fishing trip. He tossed a tackle box into the back of the company truck. The guys and I might rent a boat, he said. Do we have any extra cash in the house? The ATM limit is annoying. The audacity, asking me for spending money for his affair. How much do you need? I asked. 200. Just for gas and bait, and maybe a round of beers. I went to my purse, took out $200 from my petty cash envelope, and handed it to him. Thanks, baby, he said. You are the best. I promise, when I get back, things will be different. I will start looking for work. Yes, I said. Things will be very different when you get back. He kissed my cheek distractedly and drove off. As soon as his truck turned the corner, I pulled out my phone and opened the Fleet Manager app. The delivery truck was owned by Celeste Sneeds, and years earlier I had installed a GPS tracker for insurance purposes. Daryl knew about it once. He had clearly forgotten. I watched the little dot move on the map. He did not head north toward Lake Norman. He went west toward the mountains and eventually onto the road that led to Whispering Pines Lodge. Around lunchtime, my regular customer, Mrs. Lawson, texted, Celeste, I think I just saw your husband at Whispering Pines checking in with a woman. I did not want to intrude. Thank you for telling me, I replied. Enjoy the wedding. Do not say anything to him. I am handling it. I took a screenshot of the GPS map and saved her message. By noon, I knew exactly where he was and who he was with. That was when I called Lionel. He is gone. He is at the lodge with her, I said. Time to start the clean sweep. On my way, Lionel replied. I brought the big truck. When he pulled into my driveway, I opened the door and said, let us work. We moved with focus. We boxed Daryl's clothes, his golf clubs, his ugly recliner, his dusty trophies, his boxes of old magazines, his gadgets. Anything that belonged to him went into cardboard. The more we cleared, the lighter the house felt, like we were airing out years of resentment. Around 8 in the evening, my phone buzzed on the couch. That was when Daryl's selfie came through, the champagne, the caption. Do not be jealous. Do not worry so. We had now caught up to the moment where this began. I looked at the message, typed my final text, and turned my phone off. We kept going until the house felt stripped of him. Then at 2 in the morning, we loaded the last box. The locksmith had already changed the locks on my front door and the bakery earlier that day. Where to? Lionel asked. Evelyn's, I answered. Her son is going home. Evelyn lived in a modest brick ranch across town, the same house where Daryl had grown up believing the world revolved around him. We stacked the boxes on her porch, blocking the front door. We set his recliner on the lawn. I taped a piece of paper to the top box, a printout of the pawn ticket next to a screenshot of the credit card statement with the lodge and lingerie charges. As we turned to leave, the porch light flipped on. The door opened an inch and hit the boxes. Who is out there? I am calling the police, Evelyn shrieked. It is me, I called. Do not call the police unless you want them to arrest your son. Through the narrow gap, I saw her face in her nightgown, crumpled with confusion. Celeste, what is this? What are you doing? She demanded. I am returning your son, I said. He is broken. I do not want him anymore. His clothes are in these boxes. His debts are his own. His key does not work at my house. Evelyn's eyes darted to the paper I had taped to the box. What is this? It is proof, I said. He stole my grandmother's ring to buy another woman a purse. He opened credit cards in my name to take her to a resort. You wanted Sabrina. You have her. You wanted to tell me he deserved better. Now you both have exactly what you deserve. You cannot do this, she cried. He is your husband. You took vows. For better or worse. I took vows with a partner, not a parasite, I answered. And you? You sat in your kitchen and told me I was the problem while you knew he was cheating. That is not motherly love. That is complicity. Now his failures are your responsibility. She changed her tone instantly. Celeste, please. He is not strong. Where will he go? Where will he sleep? That sounds like a mother's problem, not a wife's problem, I said. Good night. Back at my house, Lionel parked his truck and looked at me. You okay? He asked. I smiled for the first time in days. I am better than okay. We locked the new deadbolt, and for the first time in months, I slept in the middle of my bed alone without checking my phone once. Sunday morning, the sun was bright and the air felt clean. I sat on my porch with coffee, my phone finally powered back on. 52 missed calls. 37 texts. Some furious, some pleading. I forwarded them all to Victor without replying. They were evidence now, not conversations. At 10:45 a.m., I heard the familiar rumble of the company truck. Daryl pulled into the driveway too fast and slammed the brakes. He looked rough, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled. Sabrina sat stiffly in the passenger seat, sunglasses on, staring straight ahead. Daryl stormed up the walkway. What is wrong with you? He shouted. My mother called me crying. You dumped trash on her porch. I stayed seated on the porch swing. It was not trash, I said. It was your wardrobe and your trophies. He marched to the front door and shoved his key into the lock. It did not turn. He tried again, then rammed his shoulder against the door. I changed the locks Friday night, I said calmly. While you were opening champagne. He spun around enraged. This is my house. You cannot lock me out. That is illegal. I pulled a folded document from beside me and tossed it near his feet. Actually, you are the one trespassing. This house is my separate property. That is a temporary restraining order, granted yesterday on the grounds of financial abuse, identity theft, and dissipation of assets. You are legally required to stay 500 feet away from me, this house, and my business. He stared at the paper but did not pick it up. You called the police? He whispered. Not yet, I said. But if you are still on my property in 2 minutes, I will. His voice softened. Celeste, baby, you are overreacting. The ring was a loan. I was going to buy it back. Sabrina means nothing. I was counseling her. I laughed once. Is that what you call a couple's massage at Whispering Pines? Counseling. His jaw clenched. I can explain, he insisted. There is nothing to explain. Your belongings are at your mother's. Your girlfriend is in the truck. Go start your new life. You are free. Panic flickered in his eyes. I have nowhere to go. My mother will not let me in. She is furious about the ring. She said I disgraced the family. So she finally found a line she will not cross, I said dryly. That is progress for her. Daryl took a step closer up the porch. Please just let me in so I can shower. We can talk like adults. A voice boomed from the sidewalk. Step back. Lionel walked up the driveway, holding a tire iron loosely at his side. Not threatening, just present. You heard her, Lionel said. The restraining order says 500 feet. You are too close. Daryl looked from Lionel to me to the locked door. For the first time, he realized his charm had no value here. You will regret this, he spat. You will regret throwing away 25 years. I regret the 25 years, I replied. I do not regret today. He stomped back to the truck, climbed in, and slammed the door. I saw him yelling at Sabrina. She yelled right back. As they roared away, my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, peeked over her hedge, eyes wide. I lifted my mug. Just doing some spring cleaning, I called. After a moment, she nodded and gave me a thumbs up. What happened next with Sabrina, I learned later from her neighbor, Miss Gloria, who bought cinnamon rolls for me every Tuesday. According to her, when Daryl pulled up to Sabrina's rental, he turned to her and said, I guess I will stay here for a while. We can start fresh. Sabrina stared at him like he was a stranger. Stay here, she asked. With what money, Daryl? You told me she froze the accounts. He promised he would get a job. She told him he had been promising that for months. She demanded to see his wallet. He had $20 and several useless cards. When she realized he had no access to my bakery, no legal claim to my house, and possible criminal charges hanging over him, she stepped out of the truck, told him to get out of her driveway, and walked inside. When he kept knocking, she threatened to call the police. The fantasy ended the moment the money did. With Sabrina gone and his welcome at my house revoked, Daryl dragged himself back to Evelyn's porch to beg. Neighbors later told me they saw him sitting on top of his own boxes, eating chips, waiting for her to come home from church. I did not laugh when I heard it. I just nodded. That outcome had always been written into his choices. Desperation makes people reckless. On Tuesday morning, he came after my bakery. I was supervising dough mixing when the front door chimed. I looked up and saw Daryl walk in with a man in a cheap suit carrying a briefcase. "We are here to inspect the assets," Daryl announced loudly. "This is my attorney, Mr. Rawlings." Mr. Rawlings puffed out his chest. "Mrs. Moore, my client is claiming 50% ownership of Celeste's needs as marital property. We demand an audit and a freeze on all business accounts until a settlement is reached." The room went silent. My staff, all of whom knew exactly what was happening, stared. Daryl straightened his shoulders. "I helped with marketing," he said. "I drove deliveries. I contributed. Half this place is mine, Celeste. You owe me." I met his eyes, then calmly bent down and pulled a blue folder from beneath the counter. I had moved the original from my safe deposit box the day before. "Do you remember the week before our wedding, back in 1998? I asked. His smirk wavered. "My father sat us down in his office. I opened the folder. He would not bless the marriage until we signed a document. You signed without reading it. You were so eager to marry the woman with the bakery and the inheritance." I slid the document toward Mr. Rawlings. "It is a prenuptial agreement." Mr. Rawlings read, his lips moving. "It states that any business I inherited or established and all growth of that business is my separate property. It specifically waives any claim to spousal support or business assets in the event of infidelity," I said. "It even defines infidelity very clearly. Your little vacation at Whispering Pines more than qualifies." Daryl's face drained of color. "That was years ago," he stammered. "That cannot still count. Contracts do not expire just because you regret signing them," I replied. "Unless there is a sunset clause. There is not one here." I turned to his lawyer. "If you file any motion to freeze my accounts, I will countersue for frivolous litigation and file a complaint with the bar. I will also hand the district attorney everything I have on your client's credit card fraud. Do you want that case tied to your name?" Mr. Rawlings snapped his briefcase shut. "You did not tell me there was a prenuptial agreement," he muttered to Daryl. "I forgot," Daryl whispered. "I am done here," Rawlings said and walked out. Daryl stood in the middle of my bakery, abandoned again. "Get out," I said quietly. "You are violating the restraining order." He glared at me with pure hatred. "You heartless bitch," he hissed. "You planned all of this." "No," I answered. "You planned it when you chose to lie, steal, and cheat. I simply decided I was not going to fund it." After that, the fight went out of him. Victor laid out his options in a meeting Daryl could barely afford to attend. Sign an uncontested divorce, admit to the fraud, and agree to a repayment plan on the $8,000 of debt, and I would not press criminal charges. Fight, and he risked prison. He signed. Daryl moved in with Evelyn full-time. Without my money or labor, their life shrank. Evelyn had to go back to work as a greeter at a big-box store to make ends meet. Neighbors reported frequent shouting matches. Daryl refused to take jobs he considered beneath him. He sat on her porch most days, drinking cheap beer and telling anyone who would listen that I had ruined him. A few months later, Evelyn called me. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. "Celeste," she said, voice trembling, "I need help. The roof is leaking. Daryl tried to fix it and made it worse. I do not have money for a roofer. You were always so good to me. Can you send someone? For old time's sake." For a moment, my old reflex to rescue her stirred. Then I remembered her words at that Sunday dinner, praising Sabrina and blaming me. "I am sorry, Evelyn," I said. "I cannot help you." "Why?" she demanded. "You are a Christian. You are supposed to forgive." "I have forgiven myself," I answered, "for letting you both use me. But forgiveness does not mean I finance your choices. You said Daryl needed a soft woman who did not care about money. Now you have him. Let him fix the roof. Or call Sabrina." I ended the call. Life, without Daryl's weight strapped to my ankles, unfolded in color. The bakery flourished. I hired another manager so I could take weekends off. I started hiking. I joined a book club. I learned how quiet my own house could feel when the only energy inside it was mine. Through all of it, Lionel stayed in my corner. He had helped me move boxes, change locks, stand tall. He never pushed. He never tried to turn my heartbreak into his opportunity. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stopped by his garage with a box of donuts for his crew. He slid out from under a car, grease on his hands, and smiled. "You look happy," he said. "I am," I realized. "Really happy." "Good," he replied. "You deserve it." I hesitated, then said, "You know that fishing trip Daryl never went on?" Lionel nodded. I have never been fishing on a real lake, I said. He wiped his hands. I have a boat, he said. And I know a lake that is actually for fishing, not for lies. Are you asking me out, Celeste? I asked. He grinned. I think I am. I have wanted to for about 10 years, but you were married. I am not married anymore, I said. No, he agreed. You definitely are not. I will pick you up Saturday at 6 in the morning. Fish bite early. We went fishing. We did not catch a single fish. We talked for 6 hours instead. We laughed until my sides hurt. When he dropped me off, I stood in my quiet, sunlit kitchen and realized it had been the most peaceful, honest day I had had with a man in years. It has been a year since I sent that one text. I still live in the same house, but it looks different. I painted the walls a warm yellow. I turned the old man cave into a reading room. The empty spot where the wedding portrait once hung now holds a painting of a sunrise over a lake. I see Daryl now and then around town, shuffling out of the liquor store or slumped on a bus stop bench, looking older than his age. He tries to catch my eye, searching for pity or an opening. I look past him. He is not my responsibility, not my project, not my problem. He is simply a lesson I have already learned. Last winter, Lionel and I hosted a small gathering at my house. The air was full of the smell of gingerbread and laughter. My employees came. Friends from my hiking group came. At one point, I stepped onto the porch for a breath of cold air. Snow dusted the street. Through the window behind me, I could see people I cared about filling the rooms I had reclaimed. I pulled out my phone and scrolled back to the screenshot of that first selfie at Whispering Pines, the caption that once made my stomach twist. Do not be jealous. I did not feel rage anymore. I felt gratitude for the woman I used to be, the one who finally decided. She had had enough, who dared to hit send. I deleted the screenshot and slipped my phone back into my pocket. Lionel stepped outside with 2 mugs of hot cocoa and handed one to me. You good out here? He asked. I leaned against him and looked out at the quiet street. I am, I said. This is a good quiet. He nodded. You earned it. I smiled. My father always said the dough only rises if you let it rest, I said. But sometimes you have to punch it down first. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.